Hello, you are listening to A Woman's Guide, episode 20. Do you suspect you are a controlling person in your relationships? What can cause one to have controlling behaviors? What can be done to help overcome these controlling tendencies? Today's episode is how to overcome fear, the need to control others. Stay tuned. This is a woman's guide to reclaiming wholeness after sexual abuse. For all of you listening, welcome to the show. I am Simone, your confidant and guide. Thank you for tuning in. So this other topic here that I'm going to speak about today is another way that we can exhibit fear, which is control. But I wouldn't say it's necessarily another topic. I would say it's more at the foundation. This is what I wouldn't say did wrong, but I should have put the show about projection after this show about the need to control. But I mean, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's one of the same. But yes, do we exhibit fear in our relationships or interactions with other people by controlling? And I believe that at one time or the other, I mean, everyone on some level, I think we do control. On some level, at some time or the other, we control. Fear is the basis of control. Fear is the basis of projection as well. But projection can be a form of control, of course. If you watched my last video, and if you haven't, I think you should. Projection really does have a lot of controlling tendencies. Or it has a controlling aspect to it. So I think that when we project or when we control in some other way or fashion, shape or form, it's just easier we're better able to manage our feelings of safety and certainty by another person's actions or words, or it's easier to control what other people are doing than to sit there and control ourselves or control our own thoughts or ideas or impulses. It's just a lot easier to do that. So, what we do, it's the fear that we are trying to manage. It's the fear we're trying to manage. We're trying to manage the fear, okay, of not being safe, of not being certain, of not knowing how to do things and how to change things within ourselves, which is ultimately fear. We are trying to manage what another one does. And this is just a projection or a manifestation of what we feel and how we feel powerless and how we feel helpless and uncertain within ourselves, our decisions, our choices, the things we're unable to change, the things we're unable to, come to terms with, weaknesses and stress, stressful ideas and thoughts, stressful circumstances as well. This is not just within, well, yes, it always is within the self, but these circumstances cause us to feel like we're out of control, right? And we feel fear. It's just easier. Human beings, it's just easier for us to manipulate that which is external. That what we can see, that which we can touch or smell or taste or feel. It's just easier to manipulate what we can see rather than what we can't see, which is within our minds, which is within our being and our soul and our energy. It's just easier. We believe that what we see is a lot more real than what it is that is inside of us. Inside of us, which we know is there, or we avoid understanding is there, or we downplay it, or we try to make it seem as something else. but we know it's there. But we believe that whatever we see is a lot more real than what we cannot see. So that's why we manipulate other people and manipulate circumstances and manipulate things, because that's how we feel in control. It's just easier to take it a step further. It's easier to change or fix, quote unquote, fix others than work or change or quote unquote fix ourselves. You know, this is just a fragile ego, just like I was saying, fragile ego. And you know, my last video, I said it's a function of the ego to always want to manipulate and change others and see the flaw within other people and protect ourselves and protect our fragility. I still can't say that word. Fragility within ourselves. It's just easier. We want to dominate. We want to feel more powerful, you know, and we try to overcompensate when we're in fear. When we feel threatened, that's when our ego swells up even more and we become even more domineering and even more controlling, because we're trying to be this thing that we don't even feel like we are anyway in the first place. So anyway, we control, I notice, with people, with myself, with other people, just observing, reading, and just everything that I've absorbed over the years. In times of stress, in times of change, stress and change, stressful times and change, trauma and pain, loss. This is another one, loss. When we lose things, this can trigger this tendency within us to be more in control, okay? Or to feel more out of control. No, I'm saying it the wrong way. This can trigger our feeling of feeling more out of control, or feeling in fear, being in fear. So we want to gain more control, especially in these times of stress and change, trauma and loss. We want to overcompensate for that fear, or compensate for our feelings of, fear and not being in control. So we try to control more. We do more. We go overboard. And of course, there are some personalities that are a lot more controlling than others. I mean, there's a lot more personality, there are some personalities that have more of a propensity to control than others, and especially if you're mixing that type of personality or that personality type with someone who has, let's say, gone through sexual abuse or gone through trauma, those of us who felt powerless on that level and have a more heightened sense of fear because of that trauma, PTSD, right? When we have more of a heightened sense of fear, which is more like PTSD, and that is something that I'm going to be speaking about probably in a few more videos or audios. I keep saying videos. In audios, I'm going to be talking about PTSD. But yeah, we have more of a heightened sense of fear. We feel more distressed. So as a result of this trauma or this abuse or something where it causes us to have even deeper feelings of powerlessness and feelings of fear, we resolve within our conscious mind that we never want to feel like that again. We never want to feel that helpless, that powerless. We never want to feel that, out of control ever again. We don't want to feel that. So then we overcompensate. Like I said, we overcompensate by doing anything that's going to make us feel more in control, which is most likely people, because we were victimized by other people, right? Other people were the ones that caused us to feel especially at such a young age, that, they had power over us and we had no power. So because of that trauma, we grow up, we resolve in our mind to never, ever, 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 ever feel like that again. So we have to control everybody and everything around us to have that sense, to have more of a sense of safety. So I definitely think it's a protective mechanism as well, where we just feel like, oh, I gotta control, I have to control. It's such a deeply ingrained pattern to do that. It's so deeply ingrained to do that. But yes, that comes from trauma, for sure. It has to. It has to. But it is hard to recognize and kick. It really is hard to recognize and kick because we've been doing it for so long. We don't notice that we're doing it. We don't realize that we're doing it. So anyway, if you do not know if you're controlling, I always like to give these points just in case, just in case perhaps you want to affirm. But I mean, it's not like what I'm saying is total, like that's how it's written in stone and that's how it's going to be and that's how it is for each and every person. Every person's different. Everybody, controls in different ways, and so it's not written in stone, but it can give you an idea of what ways to determine if you are controlling of others. But this is just what I devised, and I've also looked at my own experiences and all that other stuff. So this is just my own list, okay? But anyway, the first point is that you get angry, irate, irritated when you don't get your way, when you don't get what you want, or things don't go how you had planned. I think that's a big one. So possibly you say, oh, it's a disaster. It's a catastrophe. This is so upsetting. I can't do that anymore. You know what I mean? You're just overblowing things out of proportion because you didn't get what you wanted, or it didn't happen the way you wanted it to, or that person didn't do what you wanted to. That's really a huge indication that, your ego is very much involved in your life and in your plans. Because if you're going to get angry over something that did not work out, you had a really strong expectation, and it's okay to have an expectation. It's okay to plan things out. It's okay to want it to be a certain way. But when you get to the point where you're so angry and you're so upset and you're so irritated and you think the whole world is going to end because it didn't happen your way, well, I think that's a little too much. That's going to stress you out, first of all. And that's not going to help anything anyway. But yeah, I think that's one big point, because that's how I used to be. I mean, I always wanted to be in control. Always wanted to be in control. And of course, I should stop saying of course. That happened after I was abused. I always wanted it my way. I wanted it my way, and I was upset when it wasn't my way. When things did not happen the way I wanted to, I was so upset because I wanted to be in control. I more so wanted to be in control because I had my power taken away. So it manifested in many different things that I did, and manifested in many different ways that I reacted and I responded to situations that I wasn't in control of, because it had to be my way. That was the only way that I wanted to compensate for that. I didn't know it at the time, but reflecting back then, I knew that I was just trying to compensate. I was just trying to compensate. So I would get upset. I would get really, really upset when things didn't happen my way. I've always been, I wouldn't say always. I think I've always had the propensity to want things done my way. Okay. I know I've always had a problem with patience, but that's a whole nother thing. Most likely I'm going to have to make a video about that. Patience. Oh yeah. Patience. Yeah, I've always wanted things to be my way. I wanted it to happen my way. I've always been a perfectionist. I still have perfectionist tendencies, and I think it does serve a purpose with a lot of things that I do, because whatever I do, I want to do it to my optimum level. But it does get in the way because you know, things cannot be perfect to the level that I expect it to be perfect on. And of course, perfect is subjective. But in my mind, perfect has to be like ridiculously unrealistic to the point where I'm literally like killing myself to have it done this way. And it doesn't happen that way, and it can ruin your life. Perfectionism can ruin your life. That's another source of control. You wanting it to be perfect. You being a perfectionist, that's another form of control. But that's not necessarily applying to other people as such, but it can. But yes, controlling tendencies can manifest as perfectionism as well, and you want things to be perfect. You want it to be on point. It has to be, like, if it's a hair out of place, you're going to lose your mind. That type of thing, that's not healthy for you. Not healthy for you. So I had to learn. That the whole world is not going to end if it's not in place, Simone. It's okay. If it's 1 centimeter off, it's not going to kill you. If it's not all the way perfect and neat and packaged and tidy, it's not going to kill you. Other people are not going to die. Most people don't even recognize what you see. It's just because it's in your mind that it has to be a certain way, and if it doesn't happen that way, you're going to lose it. So a lot of this stuff is just really, it's so unnecessary, you know? Just looking back on my own life, or the years that I was so perfectionistic, it's so unnecessary. So unnecessary. Anyway, so the next point about another way you can determine if you you're controlling is many times you have a need, you feel a need to check on, to supervise people in case something is amiss, or, you know, or if it's done to your liking, or in case something happens. That's a big one too. It's like you have this idea or this feeling that others need you. People need you. And mind you, we're not speaking about people who actually do need you. People who are reliant on you to live and to breathe. Like people who are disabled or terminally ill, or people who are young, children. We're not speaking about that. Because, yeah, we understand. I understand if you have a little boy or a little girl and you need to check up and supervise them to see if they're doing things the right way, because they might hurt themselves, or they may not do it that way because they don't have the emotional, mental maturity, or they don't have the mental maturity or development to determine what needs to be done the right way or how it needs to be done the right way. Okay, I get it. But if you're doing this to grown people who can take care of themselves, people who know right from wrong, people who have the cognitive ability to determine what to do and how to do it, you know, adequately, then, you know, why do you need to check up on them? Why do you need to always check on, see, supervise, and see in case something is amiss, or in case, you know? Of course, if it's done to your liking, that obviously is control. Can you just trust them to do it the way that they're supposed to do it? Why do you have to check up on them all the time? Supervise them. That's control. It's a lot of control, you know? That's, I think, another big point. See, it always needs to be done your way, so you have to be checking up, supervising. And the next point is that relates to this is that you feel you're the only one that knows how things should be done. So that's why you're always checking up and trying to see if it's done or something is amiss. But you feel, this is more about a feeling, you feel as though you're the only one that knows how it needs to be done, or the way that it needs to be done. Okay? You feel like you are the one that always has the right ideas. You have the right ideas. You have the right opinions, the right choices, the right method, the right way. Your way is the way. Your way is the right way. And if it's not, it's the highway, right? Yeah, that is a big one too. If you feel like you are the only one that knows how things should be done, if it's not done your way, it's not done the right way. That is a huge indication of control. Having controlling issues or tendencies. That is a huge one. Because I know I've done this to other people too. I'm speaking from like the things that I used to do too. And the things that were done to me, yes. But you know, you have to be on both ends to really understand and see it for what it is. I mean, it's not enough to just see it within other people, because you do know by when people do it to you, but you also should be able to see and understand it because you've done it to other people too. That way you can really know that that's what it is. That's really what it is. That's control, because I know I've controlled and people have controlled me, so I can take it as it is. I know exactly what it feels like on both ends. Okay? So yes, you feel like you are the only one that has the right ideas, the right opinions, the right way, the right method, the right routine. The next point is those connected or related to you are uncomfortable or apprehensive, telling you what they want to do. If it opposes your agenda and your your expectations, they feel uncomfortable or apprehensive. They're afraid, or they're uncomfortable, or they're uncomfortable by telling you what they want to do, their agenda, their opinion, their way. They're wanting to have this done another way. If it opposes you. Because why? Because they're used to you doing things for them and doing it their way, or doing it your way, or being told things that should be done in your way, or strongly suggesting that it needs to be done your way. That's control. And most often than not, these people that are, around you may be related to you. They may be in your family, They may be in your family, they may be your partner. They may be someone that, is really close to you and loves and admires and respects you, but you're controlling, okay? And it's very hard for people to, I guess, balance things out, especially if they love you and respect you, and they just don't want to brace ruckus. They don't want to make a mess. They don't want to upset you. So then they go along with what you're saying to them and what you're suggesting to them. But when it comes to the point where they're saying, okay, you know what, I need to make a change, and I need to do things my way, or I want to do things my way now, but now they're uncomfortable to tell you that they want to do it their way, because they're thinking, oh boy, what's going to happen now? What the heck can I do now? Because they've gotten themselves into this spot where they've been so controlled that it's like a caged animal kind of thing. So if somebody opens the cage for this animal to walk out, the animal's apprehensive. They're like, oh gosh, I don't know what's going to happen if I walk out of this cage. Am I going to be shoved back into this cage? Am I going to get shot? Am I going to be, you know what I mean? Am I in danger? Like, it's that type of thing when someone who's being controlled for so long wants to release themselves. It's scary. It's a scary situation. So not maybe, but they will feel uncomfortable and apprehensive, because they don't know what's going to happen if you sit there and say, I'm going to go to, or I'm going to quit my job now, and I'm going to go to university to study law or whatever, and you were doing something completely different, and you possibly are their spouse and you're they're afraid of what you're going to say to them, because they know that you want them to do this, or you want them to do that, or you have a certain idea of how they're supposed to do it, but they don't want to do it that way. They want to do it completely different, but it might make you mad. It might make you upset. Who knows? You can, the gates of hell can open up, if they say that to you, because you want it your way. So they're uncomfortable telling you stuff. They're uncomfortable telling you what they really want. This is another way that you can tell if you are controlling. People tell you. People tell you. I mean, I don't know how many times I say, listen to what people say to you. If so many people are saying that you're controlling, you're controlling. I'm telling you, there's some kind of truth in that. So many people are not going to be wrong. If people tell you that you're controlling, I think you're controlling, That's just how it is. That's just how it is. So, I also forgot to mention the different ways that, control can manifest. But I said projection as one, right? Projection. But there's also manipulation in many different ways. There's giving people the silent treatment when you don't get your way, when you blackmail them, when you bribe them, there's different ways. I don't know if I can remember all of them, but there's different ways that you can, you can control or try to control other people. Those type of ways is control. Okay? I can't really think of anything more right now, but yeah. So why is it not such a good idea to control others? What are the negative effects on that person, on you, on others, and the relationship? Well, first of all, going back to the people and how they feel, other people are going to feel uncomfortable around you. Tense, anxious, stressed. Anyone who's controlling has this atmosphere where it has to be their way. And if it's not their way, they might get upset or angry or irate. Or they might do things to want to manipulate that person into doing what they're doing. So you can understand how tense it's going to be in that situation where you're not, where the person who's being controlled is going to feel very tense because they don't know what to expect. It's like, oh gosh, what's going to happen now? What are they going to say now? I wonder if it's okay if I do this. I wonder if it's okay if I do that. Maybe if I do this, she'll be upset. Maybe she'll get upset, angry. You feel tense, anxious, and stressed. It's not a good atmosphere to feel. Obviously, this is another point. They may not feel, the person who's being controlled may not feel trusted by you. They don't feel trusted by you. They don't feel trusted by you because what happens is that you are demonstrating to them that you don't trust them enough to do it their way, to live their life, to live it the way they want to live it, to make their own decisions, to do things their way. You have to control. So that's not going to cause that person to feel trusted. That's going to cause them to feel like they're just this person that needs guidance and this person that constantly needs reprimanding, or they need scolding, or you know what I mean? That's not going to make that person feel trusted, like you can trust them. And as a result, they're going to start to feel insecure about that and unsure of themselves, for sure. They're not going to feel like they're enough, because if you're constantly saying what you need, what needs to be done, what needs to be changed, what needs to be adjusted, what needs to be corrected. No, you're not doing it right. No, you can't do it that way. No. You have to do it that way. You have to do it my way. That's going to make them feel insecure. They're going to feel insecure because of that. If they're in that situation for so long, and they take on what's being said to them. And most of the time, we're in these situations, not most of the time, there are some situations where we're just in relationships that are just familial, or it's around people that we've grown up around, and this is all we know. So, like I said, we take on a lot of things from people, we learn a lot from people, and we grow up a certain way because of how we were treated, and the things that were demonstrated toward us, and the way that people say things to us. We learn. Okay? So yes, not feeling trusted by you, feeling insecure, not feeling assured of themselves. I mean, if you go around every day and, okay, because I'm speaking to you as the controlling person, but maybe you're not the controlling person. Maybe you are the controlled person. You allow yourself to be controlled at this stage in your life, maybe. But if you are going to be controlled, or if you're going to put yourself in a situation where someone's always telling you how to do it, the way it needs to be done, oh, you're not doing it that way. They get upset if it's not done that way. You're feeling tense, you're feeling anxious and stressed because you don't know what they're going to say next. And what did I do wrong now? Why is it never good enough for you? You can't trust me with my opinions. You trust me with my decisions. That's going to wear down on the mind, the emotional well-being of the person, the mental well-being of the person. To constantly be told that they're not doing it right. They're not doing it right. There's I know best. You don't know best. That's not going to happen that way. And, oh, you need to listen to me. Only I know. Only I know. I've been in those relationships already. Been in those situations already where people think they know better than what I do. More than me. Just because it's them. Just because they are them, they know better than me. No. You're no better than I am. And you don't know more about me than I know about myself. That's another thing I had to learn. I had to learn how to trust myself. Trust me. Trust what I feel about me. Trust what I know about me. Trust that I know myself well enough to conduct my own life. So anyway, yes. So, the next point is, it depends on the relationship or the person or people being controlled. But absolutely, I think at some point, the relationship can be lost, can be destroyed. Relationships can be destroyed by controlling. That's just how it is. And I will say this because this is the biggest point about why it is going to be destroyed eventually. People, spiritually, naturally, we are of spirit, right? We have a spirit. Well, maybe you don't believe in a spirit. It's okay. But I know for spirit, I know that I'm a spiritual being, and I know that in spirit, we're free and we're limitless and we are unburdened, and we cannot spiritually, there's no limits to what we can do spiritually, okay? We're part of this big universe, so there's no limits for us spiritually. We're in this body, so it's a little bit harder, we're a little bit more limited, but our spiritual nature is free, okay? Our spiritual nature is to be free and unlimited and unhindered, limitless. So us being a spiritual being in this body, we haven't lost that nature. That's still us, okay? So when people are telling you or controlling you, that goes against your spiritual nature. And I'm telling you, people do not like to be controlled. It's just a part of our nature. Have you noticed that, though? If someone is trying to control you, or you just feel restricted and limited and enslaved on some level, you're going to rebel. People rebel to that stuff all the time. No one likes to be restricted and limited because it's not a part of our nature. It's not natural to us to be limited and restricted and bound up and having people tell us what we can do and cannot do and what we should not do. You know what I mean? It's not natural to us as human beings. So I know for sure if someone is in a relationship and telling you what you cannot do and what you should do, and you have to do it my way, and I'm this and this and that and this and that, that's going to destroy the relationship. Anybody that's controlling, it's going to backfire. It may work. It may work for 20 years. It could work for 25 years. It could work for 30. It could work for 40 years. But eventually, that control cannot be solidified. It's not going to stay in place because spirit is free. So spirit is going to be liberated on some level. At some point, it's going to be liberated. So if you are the controlling one, it's not going to last. If you have succeeded in controlling other people through any of the various means that you can control someone, I'm telling you, at some point it's not going to work. Because spirit is free, and you can't contain spirit. It's too big for you. It's too big for you to sit there and try to contain it. No one can contain your spirit, not forever, or at least contain your humanistic circumstance or what you do humanistically. But no one can contain anyone spiritually. And your spirit is what guides you through this world and guides you through this life. And if other people are trying to keep you down, keep you burdened, at some point it's going to break. At some point it's going to break because you cannot control spirit. And we're meant to be free. And I believe that, you know what I mean? Because I do believe in it. I believe in a higher power. I believe in the Creator. I believe in God. Whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter. I'm not hooked on names. And I believe that this Creator gave me free will to come to this earth and live the life that I'm living. That's just what I believe. I mean, I believe that I was given the choice to come here. And I chose to come here and live this life. Okay? I believe that if the Creator has given me freedom to do what it is that I want to do, then why the heck is some other person, some fleshly being telling me what to do here on this earth? Are you crazy? No. Spiritually, we're not supposed to be bound up and limited and restricted. We all rebel at some point. And if you look in your life, at some in your history, in your past few years or 10 years or 20 years, if you look at anyone you know that has been bound up and tied down and enslaved on some level, emotionally, mentally, or physically, they are going to rebel. And they rebel eventually. They don't want to be tied down for long. In fact, they don't want to be tied down at all. You know? So anyway, the next point is it's stressful. It is stressful, worrisome, anxiety-inducing to always control others. So this is the person who's controlling now. Think about how stressful it is to control other people. You know how stressful it is to sit there and want to control other people all the time? And check up on them and make sure they're doing this and make sure they're not eating that. Making sure that they're, working out twice a week and, you know what I mean? Making sure that they stay on track and they do it your way. Making sure that they're not being themselves, but they're being like a mini you. You know how stressful that is? So stressful, worrisome, and anxiety-inducing to always want to control other people and situations too. And you can't be peaceful when you're like that. You cannot be peaceful when you want to be in control all the time. I realize that, and I've gotten to the point where I don't feel peaceful when I want to be in control. I don't feel peaceful. Not in control of other people, not in control of situations, not in control of my life even. Yes, when we talk about being in control of our own life, it means to take responsibility for ourselves. That's really what it means, to be in control of our life. It's to be responsible. But to control everything all the time frame it happens, the people that come into my life, the people that leave, whether someone hires me at a job or not, or whether, this comes in on Sunday or this mail package comes in on Tuesday. Like, I'm not talking about that kind of, that kind of control is what I'm speaking about. That type of control is what I'm speaking about. I don't feel peaceful when I do that. I can't feel peaceful. It's too worrisome, too much anxiety inducing. Another point is, with that now, going with the last point, is that you cannot be in the present moment as it relates to the above point. You cannot be in the present moment. You can't. You're always worried about what's going to happen. Who's going to do this? What's going to happen over there? Oh, I need this to be done by so-and-so. So-and-so needs to do this by this time. And you know what I mean? If you're always thinking about the future and thinking about what other people are going to do, or worrying about what other people are doing, at the moment or another moment, you cannot be present in your life and in your mind and in your heart. You can't be present and be peaceful. It robs your joy and robs your peace because you're too busy trying to control everything. You cannot be peaceful. This is another point too. Because of our tendency to wanting to control everything, it obstructs the flow of what's meant to happen. It obstructs the flow. Rather, you know what? Sometimes when we use human language, it can be so contradicting to say these things, but there really is a true, definitive line between one thing and the other of what I'm trying to say. So I'm saying that to obstruct the flow, it obstructs the flow of what's meant to happen temporarily. So what I mean by that is, if you're sitting there trying to control things, or you're controlling things, trying to control, I say trying because you really can't be in control anyway. You try to control things, you try to do things in a certain fashion, and you want this person to be over here, and you're doing everything you can physically, emotionally, mentally, and you're using all kind of manipulation, you're using all kinds of different tactics and different things to keep things in line and in place. You can delay, obstruct, but it's not like you're totally obstructing it to the point where it never can happen, but you are delaying the good from happening, the flow of whatever that's meant to happen. You are delaying it by always trying to control and make things happen the way you want it to happen. You're delaying what good that can happen in your life. That's what I mean. I hope you understand what I'm saying. Okay? Because things cannot really happen and flow if you are always manipulating and trying to control and trying to change and trying to fix and trying to do this and trying to do that so things could be safe for you. But what you're doing is really you're obstructing what's meant to happen the way it's supposed to happen. If you're just to let go and leave it alone, you're delaying your good, delaying what is really meant to happen, delaying just the flow of everything by obstructing, by controlling. I noticed that. So a few ways to overcome controlling tendencies in relationships, and these are mainly just thoughts. They're just mainly thoughts and things that you should consider. And but there are also a couple things you can do, because at the end of the day, when I make these episodes and I say, okay, well, I want to speak about how to overcome this, or how I want to, how we can change this or change that. But everyone has to just be willing. It's a matter of being willing. And if you're not willing to do it, it's not going to work. You're not going to do what you're supposed to do in order to change it. It's about willingness, right? And it's about you getting real with yourself and coming to terms with yourself so that you can make these changes. So it's just about getting it into your mind whether it's worth it to you or not, or whether you want to or not, or whether you're going to make the effort or not. So anyway, so the first one is work on your fear. That is the biggest one. Work on your fear. Work on your fear. I shouldn't say your fear as if you own it, but you know what I'm saying. You feel the fear. Work on your fear, because disempowering the ego, which is what causes the fear. The ego is just fear-based. Fear, 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 fear. This is what causes the fear, okay? Your ego. The need to control. So disempowering your fear, your ego, whatever you want to call it, through obviously working on your, I would say, because I mean, not everyone is spiritual. Not everybody believes in spirituality. Not everyone believes that there's something higher than this. But I think that is the only way to really kick your fear. Because fear is really a separation from the divine or from the source. And we think that we're not okay, we're not safe, we're not good. Because, you know, it's just here in this big bad world and things are going crazy and they're going insane. And things are going crazy and insane. But there's a perfection to it. There's a reason for it. There's a plan for it. And once you know that, it's easier to be aware of the fear and say, okay, well, I really have nothing to fear. But anyway, so like I've always been talking about with meditation, I mean, because it's a spiritual thing too. I always talk about meditation. Meditation is a really good way to subdue. That's the word I've been looking for so long. That's a really good way to subdue the ego. The ego. Deep breathing. Meditation. It subdues the ego. It reduces fear. It really does. I don't know. It does something chemical to your brain. It actually literally changes the functioning of your brain by meditation. It really does. And just having the understanding that and realization that your false self, which is your ego, is in need of control. You know, and it loves control, and it feeds off of control, then it's easier to observe that. It's easier to just observe it and understand that it exists, and understand that that's what it does. And it doesn't really so much have power over you, because you realize that, okay, there's a part of me that likes control. There's a part of me that wants to be in control. The false me wants to be in control. The false me wants it this way. Okay? But that's not, I don't believe that's the real you. I don't think that's the real you. The false self, the ego, is not you. That's a false self. Okay? So when you observe it, you know, and you understand it, and you understand what it does, you don't allow it to take over you so readily, because you know that it's there. Just by knowing that it's there can help a big ton. It can. So work on your fear. Work on your fear. And I mean, I'm going to be speaking about, you know, I always go into different realms or different areas of the same topic pretty much. It's just a different way of talking about it. But I'm going to be speaking more about PTSD and speaking more about, you know, especially because it's trauma-based, right? So I'm going to be speaking more about those type of things and how it can manifest, and, you know, why we need to feel that we need to be in control, and anxiety, and all that different stuff, the way that's interconnected and intertwined with each other. Because it's really a lot. It's a lot of different layers. It's a lot of different sides and pieces, and you know what I'm saying? So I can't just speak about it in just one video. It's really hard to do that, because there's so many layers to it, so many dynamics to it, so much things to consider. But yes, as you work on your fear with all these different things that I'm speaking about, and disempowering the ego and finding ways to learn and understand more about yourself and more about life, And it's a huge journey. It's a huge journey. It's a huge process, and it's just really about knowing who you are and knowing who you really are, and then naturally you disempower the ego. Naturally, you diffuse that kind of impulse to be so in fear that you need to manipulate and change everything. It's a really big process. Anyway, so the next point is that, you know, this is probably the next step, I would say, is to trust that the things that happen naturally is perfect. Do you understand? Without your manipulation and without your control. The things that happen naturally is perfect. Things that just happen without us trying to manipulate and work things and work our agenda and work our ideas of what is supposed to happen. You understand what I'm saying? When we're working from our own mind and our own ego, then we're not making things happen naturally. Things happen naturally because it's easy. It's with ease. Things flow. We're not struggling and trying to make and fix and change, you know. The things that happen naturally is perfect. It happens the way it's supposed to. So it's about trust. It's about understanding the fear. Looking at the fear, knowing that it exists, but not allowing it to define you and define what you're doing, and to change what you're trying to do, or just live your life, or allow it to rule your life and run your thoughts and run your actions. And then the next point is to trust that things can happen, things that happen naturally, without your manipulation, without your agenda. It happens the way it's supposed to happen. It happens the right way, the way that it's supposed to happen. You can trust the flow of life. You can trust it. And everything that happens within it. And, this is what I want to say, people included, you can trust what happens. I understand, because you're probably like, oh my gosh, you're crazy because, you know, so-and-so is doing this, and, you know, I'm in a bad relationship, and what I'm saying is that you learn your lessons, right? That's part of the process. You're learning your lessons, but you can trust that people can do exactly what they need to do, so you can learn your lessons, so they can learn their lessons, and then you get to the point where, well, I don't think I want you in my life, so you're out of here. But you learned your lesson. It happened exactly the way it needed to happen. You have to think about it on another level. You understand what I'm saying? Not on a level where it's victimhood or things are bad, but you have to think about it on a level. This is the only way you're going to get it. You have to think about it on the level that everything happens perfectly, even though it looks crazy and it looks like chaos and it looks like it's unorganized. You can trust that life knows what it's doing, even though it doesn't make sense, even though it seems crazy, even though you're hurting, even though someone in your life is treating you horribly, or you're allowing other people to treat you horribly. You know what I'm saying? It's all for a lesson. It's all for a lesson. Things that happen naturally happen the way they're supposed to. And if it doesn't look like that, the truth still stands. It's happening the way it's supposed to happen, without all your manipulation. So anyway, the next time you have the urge to control on some level someone, ask yourself, what are you really afraid of? I mean, I know it's fear, but what is your fear of? What do you have a fear of? When you're ready to control, what are you really afraid of? What is, and this also helps too, what is the worst that can happen if you allow it to just be? Without you trying anything, without you doing anything, without you saying anything, what is the worst that can happen if you allow it to be? What catastrophe is going to happen in your mind? How is it going to be so bad if things happen not, let's say, not to your liking or not to your expectation. What is the worst that can really happen? What are you fearing? You know, you gotta think about these things. What are you fearing to want to just control? Oh gosh, I gotta fix this. I gotta make this right. I have to. Why? What are you so afraid of? What are you threatened by? It's always something. So if I figure out what it is that you're so afraid of, why do you feel like you need to control that person or control the way that they do it? Are you threatened by lack? Are you afraid of lack? Are you afraid of loss? Are you afraid of losing something? Or losing money, or losing love, or losing respect? Or do you feel weak? Do you fear abandonment? Maybe that person might abandon you. That's why you feel like you need to control what they do. Because possibly if you don't control them, they're going to leave. You know what I'm saying? Do you fear neglect? Do you fear... What do you fear? There's always something. There's always a reason. There's always a reason. And then the next point is, you know, if you feel that urge to control, do nothing. I challenge you to do nothing. Do nothing. I don't mean do nothing in life. I don't mean don't go to work or don't pay your bills or don't, you know what I'm saying? Don't do what you need to do to survive or live your life. But I'm saying when you have this unnecessary urge, okay, or sorry, within yourself, it's not unnecessary, it's necessary. But when you have this urge to do something that's not necessary, where you just want to control someone's actions or the way they do it or how they do it or where they go or what, you know what I mean? If they go to the bathroom right now, or if they go to the gym, you don't want them to go to the gym, or you want them to go to the gym, or you want them to stay at home. Why are you doing that? That's what I said in my previous point. But then the next point is to force yourself to do nothing. Challenge yourself to force yourself to do nothing and see what's the worst that can happen when you don't do anything. Force yourself to do nothing. Force yourself to do nothing. Defy the urge. And then observe what's going on within your body and observe your reaction. You know what I'm saying? Get to the bottom of what you're trying to do or why you're trying to control. And feel the discomfort. Feel the discomfort. Feel the fear. Feel the fear. Feel the sadness. Feel whatever. The tears. Or the anger. Feel it. And then, you know, once you get past that point where whatever it is you didn't want happened, ask yourself if it was that bad. Ask yourself if something really went wrong. And mind you, I'm not speaking about someone who's going to do a really bad thing and you feel like moved within yourself to say something or to try and stop them because they might really screw up their life or they might put themselves into danger. I'm not speaking about that type of thing, because you really, if someone is in danger and you feel like they're going to be reckless and they're going to be crazy and it's going to be catastrophe, really, truly on that level, you know, somebody may get physically harmed or they might get injured or they might die, that's totally different. But what I'm speaking about is these little things that really have no bearing, you know, on your health or your well-being or your safety. So when things get to that point, like I was saying, when things get past that point where that thing that you didn't want happen, ask yourself if anything bad happened. Did something bad happen? Did you die? Were things that bad? And you may even realize that because you didn't say anything or do anything, things worked out smoothly. Things worked out wonderfully. Things worked out better than it may have worked out if you did something about it. Maybe you surprise yourself and say, wow, I didn't know that it was going to go that well. I didn't know. Wow, that was better results than I thought that I would get if I were to do it myself or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I don't know specifically what the issue is. I'm just coming up with scenarios. But yeah, you really notice how well things can turn out if you just leave it alone. Okay? If you just let things happen the way they're supposed to, naturally. Yes, at first maybe it may not seem that way. It may seem like things get worse, but sometimes things get worse before they get better. And eventually you realize, wow, it was really good that it happened that way. And I'm glad that you did that. Or I'm glad that this person left. Or I'm glad that they stayed. Or I'm glad that they didn't do what I told them to do. Whatever. It could be anything you're trying to control. I noticed that life is better when we have less interference. We don't have this resistance of fear and interference. We're just sitting here trying to change everything and manipulate everything and do everything and be everything, and you stop the flow, you block the flow, you delay the flow or the good that the flow is trying to bring to you by all this manipulation and coercion, and coercion is another one, controlling and all this stuff, you block the flow. So ultimately what I'm saying is surrender. Surrender, just surrender to these things that you don't need to control. Surrender it. You're not going to die. I promise. Okay? And understand, this is the next point, but this is why I don't want it to sound like I'm contradicting. But ultimately, I believe there's a plan. Ultimately, things are going to happen the way they're meant to happen. Ultimately. I don't know about the time frame. I don't know how it manifests. But I know that things are to happen the way it's supposed to happen. You cannot stop the inevitable. You cannot stop the inevitable. You cannot stop what is meant to happen. You may delay it. You may, push it to another date or a later date, or you may screw up how it's really supposed to happen, or not screw up how it's really supposed to happen, but you may change things in a way where it doesn't happen that way, but it happens in another way. But what I'm saying is that you cannot stop the inevitable. You cannot stop it. If something is supposed to happen, it will happen. Okay? If someone is going to leave and you don't want them to leave, you want to control them and keep you where you are, guess what? They're still going to leave. You might succeed temporarily. This is what I mean specifically. You don't want that person to leave, but it's meant for them to leave. But you may do some controlling, you may do some coercion, you might do some bribing, you might do anything that you can to keep that person in place. But I'm telling you, and you may delay them from leaving a little bit longer than they really should leave, but at some point, very soon, they're going to leave. Because that's what it's meant. That's what's meant to happen. There's no amount of glue that can stick that person to you if they're meant to go. There's no amount of glue. You can't control what people do. You really cannot. I mean, unless they allow it, unless they are programmed to think that that's the way that it needs to happen, you can't really control people. You can't control them. If they're going to leave, they're going to leave. If they're going to be a policeman and you don't want them to be a policeman, guess what? They're going to be a policeman. It doesn't matter what you want, or it doesn't matter what you think. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. If their calling is to be something that you don't want it to be, they're going to be that. Doesn't matter what you say. Doesn't matter how you coerce. You might succeed in controlling them for a short period of time, but it's not going to be that way. It's not going to be that way all of the time. At some point the inevitable is going to happen, and it's going to happen the way you possibly did not anticipate, but it will happen. Believe it or not, you are not in control. You're not in control. You're really not in control. we just have this illusion, because I mean, the false self is really just, it has all these false ideas and false beliefs, and our ego is just so in fear. So we feel like we need to control, and control really is fear, and fear is in opposition to love, and love really is just about, yes, love is about freedom and things like that. Love is about freedom, and love allows people free will, okay? So if the ego is going to sit there and try to control someone that has free will, or someone who has their own path and their own purpose, what makes you think you can control that? You can't control that. You're not in control. It took me a long time to realize that I wasn't in control, until I went through this huge upheaval, like just of years of upheaval. I wouldn't even say like it's just like this one thing that happened. No. It was just years and years of things changing and turbulence, and not being certain, and not having this happen, and major changes, and losing people I didn't think I'd lose, till I got to the point where I realized I was not in control. I still felt in some points along my purpose that I was in control. I'm not in control. Or else it wouldn't have happened that way. It would have never manifested that way. I would have gotten the job I wanted to. I would have been with the person I wanted to be with. I would have had all the money in the world that I wanted. You know what I'm saying? It took me a long time to realize I'm not in control. I can help to create my life, my intentions, by my beliefs, by my thoughts and my actions, but I'm not in control. I'm not in control of the time it happens, the way it happens, the people that are in my life, the people that stay, the people that go, the results I get, or if my package arrives at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday afternoon or Tuesday morning. I can't control that. I don't know what can happen. Anything can happen. I can get into a traffic jam on the street. Did I control that? No. You know what I'm saying? You really cannot control things. We can't control anything. So I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but you're not in control. You can help to control or co-create your life, create your life, but on the timing, on the schedule, the way that you want it to happen, the way you want it to happen, whom you want it to happen with, as long as you want it to happen with, you're not in control. You're not in control, okay? Sorry to burst your bubble. So hopefully that helped you on some level. It can be hard to reverse habits of control, especially when you've been doing it for so long and you've had, you just have this thing inside of you to believe that it has to be done your way or the highway. But you can at least manage that fear, or at least not allow it to take you over. And it can be done with patience and effort. And as you grow with the knowledge of understanding that you're not in control, and that you don't have to be in control, and that you can trust life, you then know that there's nothing to fear. You know that there's nothing to fear. When you trust life, you know that there's nothing to fear. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you for listening to A Woman's Guide to Reclaiming Wholeness After Sexual Abuse. If you would like to check out the show notes / blog for this episode, you can head over to my website at crossroadswithyourconfidant.com, or you can write me something or whatever. Contact me on my website. So next week, we will explore how to overcome fear. And we're going to be speaking about envy. So be sure to tune in. And until next time, take care.